As is so often the case, the Beastie Boys said it best when they asked, "So what you want?" But seriously, when was the last time you were actually asked what you want? Were you asked about coffee shops selling bucket-sized beverages that taste of everything aside from coffee and then charging a fiver for the privilege? Were you consulted about low emission zones and the fact that in addition to your road tax, you now have to pay again to drive your car in certain parts of the country? Were you asked if you wanted to be monitored 24/7, to be filmed and photographed as you went about your daily business, for your every online and offline activity to be tracked and recorded? Were you asked if you wanted to be a mentor and a nursemaid to an apprentice who is way more interested in his phone than in anything you have to say? Was your opinion sought, or were you just told that henceforth you would be a mental health first aider? Did anyone check on your domestic circumstances before sending you to work up the country for the next 6 months? And what about the machine you're currently sat in? Did anyone ask if you were happy to make do with the basic seat that gives you a bad back and a numb bum? Were you consulted before the umpteenth monitor was wired into the cab, restricting your vision while simultaneously grassing you up to the management? Were you told in advance that your employer was spending additional money to install a camera in the cab to keep an eye on you, but had refused to pay the extra for a reversing camera that would have made your fellow workers safer? Construction equipment designers and manufacturers are seriously smart people, and they have at their disposal highly advanced tools and technology required to turn their dream into your reality. But ultimately, they're playing the averages. They're building machines that are perfect in every way for the average customer, the average terrain, the average application, and the average operator. But none of those things actually exist in the real world. Manufacturers will proclaim that they've provided 10% more legroom in their newly designed cab. If you're 5'10" like I am, you could damn near swing a cat in all that space. But if you're 6'6", you're still working with your knees tucked up beside your ears. Those same manufacturers will tell you they've increased the glass area of the windows for greater visibility and sight safety. What they don't tell you is that depending on your size, your build, or your sitting position, there's still a sodding great pillar that always seems to be precisely where you want to look. And they'll proudly tell you that they've grouped all the key service points together to simplify daily maintenance. But they fail to tell you that you'll need 7-foot long arms and 3 elbows if you actually want to reach any of them. There is, it seems, a disconnect between what operators want and what they actually get. And that's always been the case, but in their pursuit of ever cleaner engines and a burning desire to put AI in absolutely everything, the gap between what operators want and what they get is growing. Let's take a look at a few relatively low-key examples. Thanks to the post-COVID hangover and the fact that modern technology allows operators to be monitored like rats in a lab, the notion of convivial lunch breaks in a jolly sight canteen is mostly a thing of the past. In order to hit production levels, many operators now drink their tea and coffee, eat their lunch, and grab a mid-afternoon snack in the cab of their machines. So, you pour yourself a cup of coffee. Between slurps, you'd like to set it down on a nice flat surface. But there aren't any. The designer of the machine has decided, for reasons best known to himself, that the cab interior needs to be aerodynamic. And so it's made up of a series of aesthetically pleasing but utterly impractical curves. You're forced to lock your coffee cup between your knees and pray that you don't scald your undercarriage while doing so. Speaking of the in-cab consumption of food and drink, an operator might well be in the cab of that machine for 10 hours or more, and they're doing demanding physical work. To do that, they need plenty of food and lots of calories. An operator's lunchbox is not the sort of thing that you send your kids to school with. It's often the size of a small suitcase, and it's generally accompanied by a flask the size of a fuel tank from a Ford Fiesta. Manufacturers will tell you they've provided space for you to store your lunch, and they have, so long as your lunch is a quarter of a cucumber sandwich with the crust removed. And here's the one that really butters my personal parsnips. When getting in and out of machine, be sure to maintain 3 points of contact. Sound advice. We wouldn't want anyone falling off a machine now, would we? So why is it that you need to be the height of a basketball player to reach the grab handles on your way in? Why is the step down hidden so you're left waving your leg around trying to find a firm foothold? And why is the bottom rung always just high enough off the ground to jar your knees, your hips, and your spine when you step down? Manufacturers claim they've provided state-of-the-art climate control. So why are most operators working with the window or the door open, even though it's -10 and snowing outside? In addition, despite all the claims about additional legroom, the operator is often working with his feet turned out at 2:45. When he finally emerges from the cab at the end of the shift, he looks like a ballerina adopting first position. The irony in all of this is that machines are currently advancing at a faster rate than ever before. Modern design and manufacturing methods allow a new machine to move from drawing board to on-site reality faster than at any time in the industry's history. And yet so much of that development seems to be taking place around the operator, like a town centre being redeveloped without touching the church or the pub that actually lies at the very heart of the local community. Now, I've never designed an excavator in my life. Chances are I probably never will. But I would guess that one of the most challenging parts of that design process is accommodating the huge number of parts and components required to make the machine tick. But perhaps some additional thought could be given to the single most important component, the one without which the machine is just a big, heavy, and very expensive paperweight. The man or woman sat inside with their knees up under their chin, wondering if they could follow the example set by Paddington Bear and keep their sandwiches under their hat.